virtually meet you anyway.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll meet in person sometime in the future.
I'm sure.
Oh, is it very hot in Turkey today?
I'm
or
in
just
Poland.
normal? Oh, you're in Poland.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. For 2 years, I'm living in Poland, like
Oh, wow.
and working. So, but I think it should be hot in Turkey right now. Like,
very good.
Depends on the city.
Yeah, it's pretty hot in Ireland today, which is unusual. But...
Even Poland.
We are online now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hello.
So, hello. Welcome to our meeting or interview for today. So let me introduce myself. I'm Fatma Edemen. I'm an advisory board member of Flying Broom and also selective committee member of animation part of our festival. So today we have two really great young women animation directors. So let me introduce them. So we have Robin Conroy. Robin is an Irish animation director and designer. She graduated from the National Film School, Ireland, with a bachelor's in animation in 2019, last year. And the film that we just watched, The Beekeeper, is her graduation film. Hello, Robin. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Great. So, and we have Kiera Johnson. Kiera is Irish animator. Hello, Kiera. And she graduated from Ballyfermot College of Further Education, Dublin.
Yeah.
And another film that we just watched, The Legend Has It, her graduation film, and with other fellow students, I guess. And she also directed a solo project, Nanazon, in 2018. So, hello, Kiera.
Hello.
I hope you're all doing well, because like we are in difficult times right now in this pandemic time and everything. So it is really, really nice to meet you, even in these circumstances.
Absolutely.
And make this interview. So I prepared some questions for you. Today we watched your films 2 times, so it was a pleasure. And so I would like to start with my first basic question. So how and why did you decide to make animations? Like, what was your motivation? You both studied actually this field. So what was your main motivation, and what is your main motivation today? Okay.
Well, I guess for me, I just always, from the time I was really little, I was always telling stories. I have a really big extended family, and we'd always be like, when we have gatherings together, we'd always like come up with plays and stuff together. And so it just was like really natural for me to want to tell like visual stories. And initially it was like, I also just loved drawing. So I was doing illustration all the time and little comics and stuff like that. And yeah, as I got older into my teen years, I just started really getting into film, and I realized that that was the way that I just really loved stories being told. And then with animation, it was so freeing because you were able to do so much without spending a huge amount of money. Like, you could kind of do anything. And so I guess I just kind of naturally, through the kind of drawing and film stuff, I kind of naturally gravitated towards that. I don't know about you, Kiera, if you had a similar experience.
Yeah, totally. I think that's probably the experience of a lot of people. Like, yeah, same to drawing like all the time. In school, like my like high school sort of thing was they were great for art, and like always encourage people to do art and like do little side projects. So I'd make animation, and I kind of got to my last year when I was deciding where to go to college, and I found out that animation is something you can do. And like I don't know, it never clicked to me before that you could actually do that as a job. So once I found that out, I was like, oh, that's it. That's exactly what I want to do. So yeah, it's just, I've loved it ever since.
Yeah, so wonderful. So it's kind of like childhood dreams becoming true.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Great. So we watched your films. Both was amazing. We have our own perceptions in our minds right now, of course. But so you're here. So we want to listen your films from you. So how did you come up with the idea, like Robin, beekeeper? How did you come up with this idea? What was your like main purpose, maybe like telling this story? Like,
so I kind of like with my film that people are able to come with their own perceptions of it and kind of take away what they want from it. So if you have a certain perspective and it's different to what was in my mind, that's totally cool, and like I'm very happy with that if people have different interpretations. But for me, so it was my graduate film, and I had a little goddaughter who was born the year before I started making the film. And so I was spending loads of time with this like little tiny baby, and getting her, like, mom is my best friend. And so I was getting to kind of see that whole interaction unfold. And I guess it was the first time that I was seeing firsthand, like, somebody who was my peer, like interacting with a small little baby in that way, and like learning how to grow in that relationship. And so I basically kind of wanted to portray that a bit, and the kind of the two perspectives of that, of like a parent raising a child, and then growing up in kind of like my position and people of my age, how that kind of that relationship can have troubles and anxieties and things can be broken, and then kind of ultimately the hope that those things can kind of be healed. But yes, that's kind of where I was coming from. And I got my goddaughter to actually do the voice for the little baby as well. We got her into the studio. It was very interesting trying to get actual like vocal reactions from her, because she was only 2 at the time, but also really fun. One of the most fun days of the project was actually recording her vocals.
That's a great story, actually. Like,
yeah.
Great approach. And so, Kiera, the legend has it, like,
yes.
How was it?
Well, that story kind of started the summer before my graduate year. I went on a trip to Rome, and I don't know anyone that's been there or heard of the story of the Mouth of Truth. It's like a huge, like gigantic, like stone face, and I was in Q Inks, like, you put your hand in and you get a picture of it, because there's a story that goes with it that like back in old Roman times, if you put your hand in and you were lying about something, that it would bite your hand off. And just heard loads of stories around it of people saying, oh, like people would like admit to stuff they've done before even, trying it out, or even like, seeing it happen. So I just thought that whole idea of like fear can actually, if it's a whole communal thing and it's something that everyone believes, you don't have to see it happen to believe it could happen, sort of thing. So I just thought that whole idea was so interesting. And then I just love Irish stories and putting kind of an Irish twist on things. So it was kind of just joining together those two things. And then I guess from the perspective of a little girl, like when I was explaining the idea to my class, I was kind of saying, kids at that young of an age, they could, struggle with admitting to something tiny, so say like, stealing a biscuit or something really small. So I thought it'd be really interesting to see how it unfolds for a child that age to actually have something like really genuinely troubling to admit, sort of thing. So yeah, that was kind of where I was starting off with it. And then obviously my classmates and my teammates together, we kind of unfolded the whole story and added extra layers to it and stuff like that. But yeah, that's where it started anyway.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing this. Like,
no problem.
While I was watching, like, I felt both of your films actually really fits with our former theme, because we had this theme of nature, but then due to circumstances we changed it. And at the same time, I felt like both are a story of like growing up stories, like and that's why I think it was really nice. I really, really enjoyed, to be honest. And so another question of mine is about our general topic, actually, because our topic is being a woman filmmaker in Ireland. Can you share your perceptions on being a woman filmmaker in Ireland? Like, to be honest, as far as I know, it's just my idea. Like, it's not that actually women filmmakers in Ireland, they have this whole history. It's not something that's new. It's but it's still, like, for us especially, the country and the area that we don't know. Maybe you can give us some examples, and particularly actually your field, animation making, animation directing. So How was it?
Will I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I kind of guess like on a kind of world stage, women filmmakers in general, there's kind of always been a bit of a struggle there. You know, thinking back to like really like way back times when ink and paint might have been the only kind of area of animation you'd have a chance at. Now, like I think we're like especially lucky to be graduating at a time when like women filmmakers in Ireland is actually like, you know, it's a big thing. Like there's lots of women I can look up to, and you know, yeah, I think it's like really empowering and really inspiring to look around, like, you know, the studio I'm working at and, you know, other studios around the country. There's an awful lot of women who are directing and producing and have, you know, art director kind of positions. I think it's like really, really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like speaking for like my final year, it was we were like they noticed in our particular college that more each as year went by, there was a greater percentage of women in the course. Like when you went back to the 80s, it was almost entirely men, and then as time went on, it was more and more. And so in my particular year, I think it was like 2 to 1 with women. Not that every year was like that, but my particular year was. And it was really exciting, the diversity of stories that were coming from these women, and just how different the tones were, because I think there can be a kind of a patronizing thing that women will kind of make a sort of a women's film, and that there's a kind of a certain feminine kind of thing that's that wasn't like, the thing that we found was that actually the women's voices were all so diverse and different, and that was so exciting about it, that it was, you could definitely tell they were women's films, but they were also different in their femininity, which was really fantastic. And then like in terms of the industry, I think it's really exciting that we're seeing more and more female directors, like Kiera was saying, because there sort of was historically, I don't know if this relates to live action film, but there was a sort of a historical thing of you'd have the male directors and then the female producers, and not to disregard producing is an incredibly great role, but it's also really exciting to start to see more and more that like directorial voices are becoming women's voices as well as men's, and it's really nice to just see all that kind of contrast being brought into the field in Ireland.
Yeah, totally.
But to be honest, it's like hearing this such an encouraging, like it's really nice to know this. So you said there are like many filmmakers, there are really encouraging things, and like many opportunities I can see in Ireland. So and maybe any challenges, especially as a female storyteller. Maybe from your experiences, did you experience any challenge that you in your process or anything?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, which is a really nice feeling to have. Yeah. Like I had a really big team, and majority women as well, some really great guys as well. But yeah, no, I honestly, like in the making of this film, it was just a delight. And in the team that I'm working at the moment, it's, yeah, I think at the moment in our industry, we seem to be in a really great place where there isn't as much of a barrier or as a challenge as there was even like 10 years ago. So yeah, no, I feel honestly really blessed that I don't have anything obvious like coming to mind in terms of challenges. I don't know if you have a different experience, Kiera.
Yeah, no, I was thinking, I'd love to come up with an example, but I can't really think of any. Like in my graduate year, there was 4 films made, 2 had female directors and 2 had male directors, and they all just seemed to, you know, they were all on the same footing. Like there didn't seem to be any sort of advantage or disadvantage to who was directing the films. Yeah, and I mean, I've kind of going into working in animation, then it seems to be much the same. Like I'm seeing such a nice blend of men and women working in like all the different roles in the studio, which is lovely, like really, really good.
Yeah, so it's really, really, really nice to hear these stories, to be honest, because, you know, in many places in this world, like women filmmakers has lots of challenges. So we know our struggle and everything, and especially this film festival is here for that reason, to empower the women filmmakers all around the world. That's why we are making this festival as international and just for women filmmakers particularly. So hearing such a nice and encouraging example, it's definitely wonderful. So another question, maybe again related. So today is like that. So how do you see the future of women filmmaking in Ireland, or like surrounding maybe like close countries and experiences that maybe you went to another country for like workshops and other things, and what you saw, like what are your experiences, what are your expectations for future for generally filmmaking and particularly for animation directing?
I guess what I'd love to see is more really big projects with kind of diverse voices. Like, so we're definitely seeing stuff in Pixar where there's like female directors and stuff, but it would be nice to see from an animation perspective, I guess, more projects that are being kind of funded in kind of a big way with female voices, and maybe with kind of for my personal taste, I really enjoy kind of diverse mediums as well for animation. So it'd be really exciting to see those things married, sort of like a female voice and then also a different medium to what we are used to seeing in terms of 3D and stuff like that. So it'd be really, really exciting to see sort of diverse female voices and mediums of animation being used more kind of like commercially or popularly than we're currently seeing. That would be incredible. And how to make that happen, I guess just people have to keep making stuff and putting it out there. But that's what I would love to see more of in the future, and hope to contribute my own little bit towards that. Yeah,
totally. I totally agree. Like I think there seems to be so much content coming out of Ireland made by female directors, which is just so lovely. I guess, but then just seeing it on a larger stage, I think we could really do it. Because I mean, the stuff that's being produced in Ireland is like phenomenal. Like you have the likes of The Breadwinner by Nora Toomey, and like even that as an example, such a beautiful film. And so many people I said, oh, you have to see it in the cinema, and it wasn't in cinema for that long. I guess just because demand versus like all the big American films that also were in cinema around the same time. Like I would have loved to have seen it in cinema for longer and for more people to have the opportunity to have gone and seen it. So yeah, I feel like some projects like that just need more support, and I'm not exactly sure where that would come from, but yeah, like you have a story like that that's has such an important story behind it and made by Nora, and just a beautiful film. I think more films like that would be really important to see.
That film was amazing as well, because it was also so great to have kind of like cultural, like different female cultural voices, because it was Irish, but it had obviously a different cultural perspective that the actual, like, was made by Irish filmmakers, but then a different cultural perspective that it's coming from. So it's really nice seeing those things happen as well. I think Kiera's totally right that it's a case of like these things are being made and these people are out there and they're making amazing stuff. They just need people to kind of like I guess shine a light in them, or like give them the support that they need. That's really what needs to happen now, is just like people getting on board and helping to make those things actually thrive,
Yeah, totally.
Definitely,
yeah, for sure.
100% agree for all of that. So my last question that I prepared for you is maybe can you tell about your future projects, like because we're in this corona times and we're all stuck in our homes and stuff, but okay, I'm changing my first question. The first question is, how is it going for you? Because we still have time, I know. So how is it going for you? Like about your creativity, what about your projects? Like, how do you feel in this time as a animation directors? Like,
Like a Chris, I think it's going not too bad. Like I'm working at the minute as a production assistant in a studio in Dublin. So thankfully, that's a job that we could kind of transfer to working from home. So I'm still working there. But I think it's kind of like a feeling across the board, just being on Twitter and seeing like reactions from a lot of artists. It is quite hard to stay motivated to keep producing art in times like these, because even just doing nothing's exhausting somehow. So I feel like I can get to the end of a work day and I'm like, oh, just too tired to, keep working on personal stuff. But I think setting little projects helps a lot. Like my friends and I have started, each week we have a new theme and we kind of put forward like a drawing, no matter how doodleish it looks or whatever, each week. And that's kind of a nice like little project to kind of like be building towards. We can kind of keep encouraging each other, and it's really nice to see the end products at the end of each week. So that's kind of what I'm working on just at the minute. Just something small and nice to keep the time tipping by.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm currently also working from home, doing a kind of a motion graphics animation role in a company. And so yeah, like Kiera, that takes up my 9 to 5. And I think initially, I was just so like kind of bamboozled and exhausted by everything that was happening that I just had no like creative energy left. It was like get my work done and then that's it. But in the last little while, I've been doing a little bit more. And yeah, I think part of it was letting go of the kind of pressure of like you have to be using this time really well, because I was getting a lot on kind of social media, a lot of people like doing impressive stuff and kind of being like, what are you gonna do with your quarantine time? And I think I kind of had to get over that mindset before I could actually start making stuff myself and making it for myself rather than in order to prove something. And so I've been reading a lot over this time, and actually for the first time in my life I've been reading poetry. And so I've been taking like pre-existing poems and kind of using them as a basis for kind of small projects. I don't know if anything that I make at the moment will ever see the light of day, but it's certainly very fun to kind of play around with. And also have been like looking at people like Mary Oliver, who's an incredible American female poet, as kind of like an inspiration to kind of make stuff with somebody else's voice, and my own visuals and stuff like that. But again, we'll see. I don't know if these things will ever like leave my computer, but it's been fun to kind of play around with them over the last little while.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd say to anybody who is creating at the moment, like just let go of the pressure. You don't have to show it to anyone else, or you don't have to come out of this situation with like a vast body of work. Like Kiera's right, it's small little projects that you're making because you want to make them, that are going to be worth doing rather than trying to prove something to somebody else.
I keep hearing people saying stuff like, it's not a normal time. Like, don't think of it as like, I've all this time off and I'm not using it doing anything. Like, it's a really unusual time and it's not natural.
It's not like not holidays,
No.
It's a very different, very stressful kind of off time. So it totally makes sense that it's
need to go easy on ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we have to accept this this time as like another experience, that we never saw before. So that's why it's not like we're in our houses because we wanted to, but we have to. And it's not something like, oh, you have to be productive because it's a really nice time. No, like many people are hurt, many people are out, have to work a lot, and while we're staying at our homes and stuff. So we have to, I think, embrace this as a new and different and unfortunately painful experience.
If you literally don't make anything and you just like look after yourself, that is an incredible achievement at this time.
Totally.
Definitely agree. So maybe we still have time. Maybe I can ask you, do you have any suggestions from your fields to our audience, maybe like people who want to start animation, especially young women? What would you say? Like, what should they do? What should they search for it? And how to tell their own story?
I mean, I can only speak as like somebody who's very much starting in the industry as a young woman. So I don't have a lot of history behind me in terms of my experience. But as a young filmmaker, I can say that like if you are thinking about this and you don't think it's possible to do, just like make the stuff that you love and put a little bit of time into it every day that you're able to. It's not about making like one perfect thing. It's about like building up over a long period of time, making stuff. So like draw from life, go outside, like find a cafe and sit down and just like draw people crossing the street and stuff like that. It's about consistency more than it's about making one perfect thing. Because I know when I was starting out in college, I was like so terrified by all of the talent that was in the room that I really was like scared to do something and do it wrong. But actually, like the faster you do things wrong, the quicker you're gonna start like making mistakes are actually healthy and part of the process. And if you don't make any mistakes, you're actually gonna end up stifling yourself. So be okay with like making bad drawings, because bad drawings are part of the process. And yeah, have fun and enjoy it, and just make lots of stuff is honestly like the best advice I give you. It took me like halfway into college to actually realize that I just like had to just make stuff and love what I was doing and not be afraid of what other people would think about it. And I wish I'd known it sooner, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people start out like that, because especially going to open days for animation college, they put the nicest stuff on display. So you see all these gorgeous drawings, and then you're thinking, oh my God, I can't do any of that. So I remember being really nervous and like really curating my notebooks and trying to make sure it looked really pretty, and like ripping out stuff that didn't make sense. And thinking back now, I should have just went hell for leather and put everything in it, because it just shows your process. Like I don't think anyone wants to see like a perfect little sketchbook. It's about, you know, experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't work, because what doesn't work you'll learn from, and what does work you can expand on. And yeah, for sure, I think letting go of the idea that you need to finish with the perfect little like finished piece, I think that's definitely one of the most important parts, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just spend our whole lives learning, and so there's never going to be a point where we go, oh, I'm finished and I've made the perfect thing and now I can stop.
Yeah.
You know, it's every single piece of work is going to be a progression, and it's just going to gradually be getting better and better. Yeah, like I spent 4 years working up to this film, and there's things that I would definitely like to change, but it's like it is what it is in that period of time, and that's totally okay. And the next thing I'll make will be different. And yeah, it's just about like taking it easy and going easy on yourself with the stuff that you're making.
For sure. Like you even see, you know, the old pictures by Michelangelo and Da Vinci, and he's drawn it, like redrawn the foot and the hand like 5 different times. Like we all make mistakes.
Good enough for Da Vinci and Michelangelo.
Exactly.
Good enough for you.
Exactly.
Get it. Because like unfortunately, particularly in Turkey and many other countries, I heard that really nice experiences from Ireland. It's really nice, but generally, you know, like filmmaking seen as a technical field, and particularly like areas like animation making, animation directing, like people think that, oh, this is so technical. This is a really technical field. So women, maybe they can't do it. Maybe they don't want to do it, because unfortunately still those ideas are around. Like, oh, naturally they don't want to do this because it's so technical, or
yeah,
they can't do this. But like, you know, saying it in a nice way of, you know, girls generally don't like it. And so I heard like many good things from you, but have you ever like even like one small thing like experienced something like that, or it was always encouraging for you? And for maybe people who think that, what would you like to say?
I think there can be a tendency, or like I certainly have found a tendency from myself as a woman, there can be a tendency to not trust yourself, and when you're getting feedback to kind of want to just take every note that you get as a, like, if somebody suggests something, that's something that you have to do. So I think that I would say to, like, just trust your own instincts a bit more. And just because somebody makes a suggestion, it doesn't mean that you have to implement that. It's great to get feedback, and especially from people who know more than you, but also, like, trust your instincts, and like, you're the one who's making the work, so, and you're the one who knows it most intimately. So it's okay to go, yeah, that's a nice suggestion, but actually I'm going to stick with what I'm doing before I actually.
Story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, that's another thing that I wish I could have told myself at an earlier stage. Because collaboration is amazing and wonderful and my favorite way to work. But collaboration doesn't work if you don't have kind of a strong voice at the center of it as well. You need to also be able to make your own decisions at the end of the day for what your project is going to be. And yeah, so I just say to women, like, trust yourself. You actually got this, and you know what you're doing. So yeah, stick with what you're doing, and just because there might be, like, a man or a woman who has, like, more experience than you, who's kind of intimidating you, trust what you know to be true about your project, yeah, that's the only thing I can really think of that, like, I've experienced, and honestly it was mainly my internal thing rather than something that was external, that I just needed to kind of get over myself. But yeah, I think might have kind of come from my own kind of perspective. I don't know.
Oh God, that was a great answer. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I think I've kind of been in those same sort of shoes where you kind of, it's easy to second guess yourself, especially when we're quite young. Like, you're kind of thinking, oh, maybe a teacher does know more than me as, a 22-year-old. But no, you're dead right. Like, at the end of it, it's like your voice. And I've heard so many cases of people kind of changing, like, getting feedback and changing it to suit that feedback every single time, and not being able to kind of, put their foot down about things. And then by the end, you have a totally different film to what you had started off with envisioning. So yeah, I totally agree. It's really important to just keep that in mind. Like, even just, I know for me, I had to have, like, a little, like, four sentence, like, blurb of the film, and, like, if at any stage it felt like it was derailing from being about that, I was kind of like, no, we need to get back to the core of it. So I found that helpful anyway.
That's an excellent practical idea.
Great answers. Thank you so much. So I think we're about to finish. So that's why I would like to ask you, do you have anything to add? Do you want anything to say?
Well, yeah, I guess, like, for starting out into the actual field after college, I found that the group Women in Animation was really, really helpful. I know that we have one in Ireland, and I think it's an organization that's, like, around the world. So maybe that's something people could look into if they have a local group for women in animation. But I think just animators in general are so welcoming and will always want to help people who seem interested. Like, I know I got so much advice from going to women in animation events, over the years, and it really helped me gain confidence and make connections. And it was so lovely to connect with people and be able to talk on, like, a one-to-one, like a face-to-face kind of thing after all this quarantine stuff, I guess. But not right. But yeah, and I'd say finding groups to do animation and just connecting with people who are like-minded and, are there to help you out is really important. And it's really nice to know about those groups around your area. So yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Just ask for help as much as possible. Look for people who are like-minded, or people who, are doing the same kind of thing as you, and reach out. See if they're interested in collaborating or whatever. Those kind of things are how you'll get things off the ground.
Thank you so much for, like, sharing your films with us. Thank you so much for being part of this festival and this 23rd edition of Flying Room. And from here, while I have you, I would like to also thank you to first Flying Broom, and then Dublin Feminist Film Festival, and Irish Embassy in Turkey. So thanks to them, so we saw your films and we were together and have a great time. And I hope we will like get through this hard period all together in a healthy and safe way. And I hope we will watch your new films also later in the festival again.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Fatma.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. It's been really delightful.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much.